Nobody would ever feel the pain of a mother because there's only one mother. And two bereft mother wouldn't feel the same. Because like I said, I was friend with somebody that lost a baby a few months after me. She said, don't compare our stories because you've lost a baby, you chose your grief, I haven't. I think the grief of man is another thing definitely I hope people can relate to is, he went to work on the morning I gave birth to our deceased baby because, I've cried in front of them, I've been angry in front of them because part of grief is being angry and sometimes you're short-tempered and they know women can lose their babies. That's helpful for my son as well. If he's in a relationship and his wife has a miscarriage, I hope that he'll remember. And there are aspects of motherhood that we need to talk about as well, which is it's not a bed of roses every day. Sometimes you want to be a single person without a partner, without kids, on a desert island, reading a book and having a warm cup of tea. And that's the thing with trauma. You haven't got the capacity to make informed decisions. So when you go through trauma, you don't either remember or you don't understand the question. You feel one is where I've gone 360 degrees, where I do say I've lost babies, I do say I'm a bereft mother, I do say that I belong with that club that nobody wants to be a part of because I've lost a baby, full stop. And if people disagree with that, that's fine, but that's what I believe. But my message to whoever might be going through that is what's right for you, what's right for your family, what's right for you at that time. And even, with termination, full stop, people terminate pregnancy because it's not the right time in their life. People terminate pregnancies because they've been raped. People terminate pregnancy because they're young or whatever it is. And that's what my faith has made me realize. When you look at faith in a proper way, I mean, I'm a Catholic, so I'm talking about my faith, but Jesus forgave the prostitute and the murderer and all sorts of people that had done things. So why would I be shoved into hell because I've made that decision? So we all need to be tolerant of each other, whether you've got faith or not. I've lost friends throughout that process that I initially would be like, yeah, nobody can criticize. Yeah. And then one of those friends was pregnant at the same time. And unfortunately, she lost a baby as well late in pregnancy. And she said one time, yeah, but the difference is you chose your grief. I didn't choose mine. So, it's people will have an opinion. People will have an opinion after this podcast. So be it. But I'm comfortable in my own heart. And I know that no one can judge me. No one can judge me. I've already judged myself enough anyway by not allowing myself to grieve for 2 years, by not allowing myself to say the word, I've lost a baby, by skimming through who I tell which bit of the story because I don't want to hear their opinion. I mean, part of me being the way I am, obviously, I think the rainbow baby had a lot to do with it. I cannot say because it's not happened. What would have happened if I didn't ever get a baby after that? Would I still be doing podcasts? Would I still be? I don't know. Because I feel that is part of my healing. It has healed me massively to think that, okay, she's healthy, she's fine. I can smile again because she's very little and she would make you laugh at the smallest little things. So I don't know. I can't say what I would have been like if she wasn't there. And part of me sometimes thinks she will realize because I've talked to her about her sister, this picture of Amore. So she's seen her, she knows her, that she will realize at some point when she's a teenager or an adult that if my sister didn't die, I would never be here. Which is true in my case because ideally I wanted 3 children. So I think if Amore was a different scenario and she was my last child, I wouldn't have had my daughter now. So yeah, I don't know. It's just me. It's just what I've been through. It's just, I want to be a bereavement midwife. And interestingly, I wanted to do that. That was my call for midwifery before I had all this happening. So I feel that this has reinforced what I'm meant to do. I want people that I lose in a baby to be treated with absolute kindness, warmth, dignity, non-judgmentally.
And
So yeah, I don't.
I gotta
Yes,
say, I
I
could
don't
see
give
you
them.
doing that and being great at that job as well. Like, and
Yeah,
especially having the lived experience, that will make you better at that
yeah.
job and doing that. And just listening to you, you're so inspiring. And I know you probably hear this, you've probably heard this before, but and I'm guessing it's not always easy to take on, but you really are listening to what you've gone through and to how you're talking now. It's amazing, and you're definitely going to help other people. And you're right that we are, as a society, we love to judge people way too much, especially in this society that we live in this country. But
Mm,
I'm a firm believer in everyone's hard is hard, and you don't know what goes on behind closed doors. And people are put in situations you don't know how you're going to react in that situation.
mm,
And like you say, if the word choice is used loosely in this
yeah,
situation, I think. And even if people think you've chosen to lose your baby, it doesn't make the grief any easier. You're
no,
still going to grieve your baby.
yeah.
And that's not, even those that, in different circumstances have abortions, they still grieve. And I think
Well,
when you talk about having the rainbow baby, I can sympathize with what you're saying because I get it. I've been there in that sense. And I think the way I make sense of it is because I think people think, oh, you have another baby. And I was very much the same like you when it comes to the sex. I didn't want to know. So I didn't find out the sex of my rainbow baby through fear of how I would respond. I didn't know if I'd be happy to have another boy or if I'd be sad to have another boy. So I just didn't want to put myself in that situation. So I never found out. But when I did have another boy, again, like you, I was worried that people would think I've replaced my son. And unfortunately, some people not necessarily think that you replaced your child, but they think because you've had another child, everything's all fixed now and everything's okay and you should
mm,
be fine. But
yeah,
that people don't realize that having another baby, how triggering that can be on its own, and it just brings everything to the forefront of what you've lost.
yeah,
Um, but I think in the sense that it can make the grief a bit easier is because it's not because it makes the grief any easier for your child. It makes the grief easier for your future hopes and dreams. Because I always say
yes,
there's when it's baby loss, you're grieving two things. You're grieving your
mm,
child, but you're also grieving your future hopes and dreams.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so by having your rainbow baby, you didn't have to let go of that, the future hopes and
no,
dreams, but
no,
you're still going to grieve your baby.
yeah.
Um,
It's a normal reaction. And then, even still talking about it with my partner now, I think it was a recent conversation where he said part of the decision for him as well is she wasn't just disabled, she was black and disabled.
mm,
And at the time, that didn't really answer my consideration. Mine was more like, what kind of a life is she going to have? How poorly is she going to have? How often is she going to be in hospital? But to him, we already deal with so much stigma and racism and poor outcome when you're well, that, if you add severe disability in the mix and serious health issues, like, yeah, and it was that kind of, for me as well, it was, I'm asking my living children to consent without informing them of the full story to look after their sister if anything happened to us. Because that's what it is. When you have a child that's severely disabled, the parents become carers. But when the parents pass, if that child hasn't got any sibling, they end up in the care of the state.
hmm
Unless, I don't know, if you've written a will and you've got loads of money and you've got private something, or you've got a family member that would have your child. But if that child has got a sibling, those children will need to be there for their sibling. And I that didn't sit right with me either because I thought they're 8 and 10. I could ask them to consent to that,
mm,
to that
yeah.
at that age. Like, it's just, yeah, I think we need to stop classifying grief because I've heard it many times when I tell my story, because obviously my story is like a big firework. And some women that have lost baby, I was like, oh, I've only had two miscarriages, I've only had one. And
Mm,
I'm like, no, no, it's not a rank. Like, I'm
yeah,
not top
yeah.
of the scale because I've lost five and you've lost three. There are people that might have lost 12. and they're not
Yeah.
top of the rail either. That we are all on the same.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I always say the same thing. There's no hierarchy in baby loss. That's
no,
why I say everyone's hard is hard. You know, you might have had one miscarriage at 6 weeks, but you could have been trying for 20 years to fall
mm,
pregnant with after that one before that one miscarriage. You know, everyone's hard is hard, and we are not
yeah,
here to judge. This is why I created this space, and this is why I welcome people into this space because there's no judgment. I'm here. I want to hear all of your stories. And I appreciate, like I said, everyone's hard is hard. And we do it. It really frustrates me because we do it. And I don't know about you, but I did it to myself. You
yeah,
know, I dismissed my miscarriages after I
yeah,
lost Zion. I was like, oh,
mm,
that's nothing compared to that. But then it's only as
yeah,
time's gone on and I've spoke to more people and done more work around this area that I feel like actually no, they're
it
important
is.
too because
Yeah,
I grieve them. I grieve them. I just did it in isolation, but I still grieve them.
yeah.
So it's not,
It's,
and it
it's
is, and that's why it's so powerful, your story. And I didn't want to interrupt you while you were talking, but if you don't mind, I would like to ask us a couple of questions,
yeah,
just to get a better understanding because honestly, I am so in awe of you right now to hear what you've gone through, and now that the fact that we're having this conversation in the way that we are as well is amazing. But when you said at the beginning about having the three miscarriages within the space of 18 months, you only had to, did you have to have three operations each
yeah,
time? And
yeah.
how close were you within those operations, and how was that for you physically, emotionally, as well as in your relationship in that time?
I didn't, I didn't deal with it. Like I just thought, okay, just get it out. Let me be pregnant again. And that's what the hardest bit for me was actually the year after I had Amore, where there were bits of placenta left because they kept operating on me and you know not leaving my womb free to carry a baby. So you go for an operation, you go under general anesthetic, and it's sort of an aspiration system. So they aspirate what they call the remain of pregnancy. Um, and then you go home and probably I think had a week off, go back to work. You have to wait 6 weeks to do a pregnancy test to confirm that you're no longer pregnant, and then you can go again. So I think I had the miscarriages was always going something like April, October, April. So like every 6 months I was losing a baby. So as soon as I was able to conceive again, one of the losses we were on holiday in
Hmm.
a hotel. I just called the early pregnancy clinic and I said, it sounds like you may be having a miscarriage. And I just carry on my holiday, didn't tell the kids, like wear a pad and just go and see the doctor when I come back from my holiday. The first one I was at work and I just carried on working for the rest of my 12-hour shift.
And that
So, yeah. And the last one I was in France visiting my parents and I didn't tell them and I carried on the rest of the stay with my parents and my family like nothing happened as well.
Oh, that so sounds so difficult. How?
It is, it is. It is because I think if you ask women that have miscarried, I'm not the only one that brush it under the carpet. A
Mm,
lot of, I've even met women as a midwife that haven't told their partner and this has passed for a period. So let's say, I don't know, they miscarry at 8 weeks. They might not have done the pregnancy test or might have done the pregnancy test and on the same day they start bleeding. They don't say, because I met a woman like that through work as a midwife, and she said, because we had a few miscarriages, if I kept telling him I was miscarrying, he was going to stop wanting to have babies. So
mm.
there's a couple of miscarriages I dealt with entirely by myself. She didn't even tell her husband.
Yeah, no, I get
So
it.
it's,
I do get it. And that, but this is why I say how difficult it must have been for you as well, because I also get that. As my first miscarriage was I was at work and I went back to work and carried on working. My second miscarriage, I was at my best friend's 30th birthday party and I didn't tell anybody and just carried on like nothing was happening. And that, I mean, I don't know about you, but at the time, I stupidly, and I don't know if I've even ever said this out loud before, but I stupidly felt a little bit like a martyr. Like, you know, I'm this strong
yeah,
woman. I can deal with this by myself. I don't need to
yeah,
tell anybody, and I should be proud that I'm doing this in isolation. And I say
yeah.
stupidly now because I really do think it's
No,
stupid
yeah, it's not
at the
stupid at
time.
all. No, yeah, we have this unconscious ranking and putting it well below anything else, that miscarriages is nothing. It's just one of those things. Yes, it is one of those things, and I think we should do more education from school age to say that 1 in 4 is a very minimum with miscarriage. So when they tell them about period, they should also tell them age appropriately, maybe in secondary school, that you may be pregnant one day and you may miscarry, which may look like a heavy period,
Mm,
a bit more painful. You might not know you're pregnant even. You might, um, because I think that's where I confront a lot of people in conversation at work and in my personal life is as midwife, we don't want to scare among women.
mm,
But I'm one of those midwife that, I used to do the tours of the hospital as a volunteer whilst I was trying to enter midwifery. And I used to argue all the time. We should show them a theatre, empty theatre, clean, nice, no blood everywhere. This is what a theatre look like. There is a possibility you could end up there for an emergency cesarean or a planned cesarean. This is what it looks like. There's a bright light, there's a board where we put your name and all the name of the people in the room. There might be a few people, there might be loads of people in the room. This is theatre. This
yeah.
is NICU. You might have a baby early. This is what it looks like. Obviously, not take them to the bedside of a 25-week baby, but maybe special care, which is more like sort of term baby, and say, you come here regularly, you look after your baby, you feed your baby, the nurse look after your baby the rest of the day. This is, but no, we just show them the room with the pool. We
Mm,
show them like,
yeah. All the
so
nice bits.
yeah, I think we need to go way back and strip it off and go even to, you know, I've had conversation already with my 14-year-old, nearly 15, about black women and the care that we get. And I said, any
Mm,
circumstances where you don't feel heard, you shout louder.
mm-hmm,
If you are in pain and they give you paracetamol and it doesn't cut it, you ask for something else. And if you're in pain and they don't even come to give you anything, you ring the bell again. And
mm-hmm.
and it's sad because we shouldn't have to have this conversation.
Yeah.
I've had the same conversation with my son. If you get stopped by the police, you don't go and look for your mobile phone in the glove compartment. You come out the car, you put your hand on your head, and you do as you're told.
Mm,
Like, but even with my own family or people that are close to me, they'd be like, well, why? Because even my kids say, every time you speak to me, it turns into a life lesson. I said, yeah,
mm-hmm,
because that's my role as a parent. I need to guide you through life with what I've been through and what I know of the world. And then you make your own mind about everything else. But I need to share my knowledge with you.
yeah.
That's what parents do, isn't it?
Hmm.
So,
I'm
yeah,
laughing because I'm the same. My kids hate me sometimes. Sometimes they don't want to tell me things for fear of how I'm going to react because yeah,
yeah.
I mean, it's so true though. And I think when you experience trauma, you know that it takes away that ceiling, doesn't it? That
Mm,
most people who don't have to go through trauma think, oh, that would never happen to me. That those sorts of things
mm,
happen to other people. But once you've experienced your own trauma, it takes away that ceiling. So anything is possible. Anything can happen. So you want to arm your kids and prepare your kids for every best
yeah,
scenario. And this is why I do what I do, because I want to have better outcomes for my kids. And I always
mm,
teach them, challenge. It's there's nothing wrong with challenging. It's how we challenge. We need to think about how we do it, but there's nothing wrong with it. If you're going to speak to a professional, you don't have to take everything that they say as gospel because they are
yeah,
human beings and they make mistakes and they're not experts in everything. And sometimes you can know more than them. So
yeah,
challenge, and there's nothing wrong with that. And make sure you're heard. Make sure you have a voice. And it
yeah.
is right. It is harder for when you look like us. It is a lot harder, as the
It is.
statistics tell
It
us.
is. It is. But also, I think, yeah, if I die tomorrow and I've installed resilience in my kids, because I feel like my resilience has been built over the years, often not out of choice.
Mm,
So I still don't take very often very well the compliment, oh, you're so brave, you're so strong. Because I was like, have you heard my story? Like, what choice did I have?
hmm
And one of my friends said, but don't forget that you always have a choice. You could have stayed in bed for 6 months, not feed your kids, not take them to school, draw the curtain, feel suicidal, commit suicide. Like, you have a choice. And, I'm not saying suicide is a choice, but I'm saying I could have chosen not to carry on and for life to stop for a bit because I just wasn't strong enough. So it always kind of is a double-edged sword with me when people say you're so strong and you're so, because, but I want my children to be strong because they chose to be strong, not because life has passed them by. but because, they've been through more than some people will go through in a lifetime, and they're not even adult yet. But I've always been told they're mature beyond their years. They look out for other people. They've already got skills like empathy,
Hmm.
and you know, and I feel proud of that because I think they know people can die. They know women can lose their babies. That's helpful for my son as well. If he is in a relationship and his wife has a miscarriage, I hope that he'll remember, oh, this has happened to my mum, and she was upset for a little bit. And I told them I was going through therapy. I tell them when I have counseling session, like I'm not, I've cried in front of them. I've been angry in front of them because part of grief is being angry, and sometimes you're short-tempered. And as much as you love being a mum, I used to get frustrated as the amount of mummy I used to have a day, and then I used to beat myself up because I was like, you want another child, and you've heard mommy 20 million times today, and you don't want to hear it. Like, when the children go,
Hmm.
Mommy,
Yeah,
Mommy,
yeah,
and
yeah,
the
yeah. I
minute they
get it.
wake up, it's
Yeah.
just grinding, grinding. And there are aspects of motherhood that we need to talk about as well, which is it's not a bed of roses every day. Sometimes you want to be a single person without a partner, without kids, on a desert island, reading a book and having a warm cup of tea. It doesn't make you a bad mum. It
You've
doesn't
really
make
thought
you a
about
bad
this,
mum.
haven't you? No, it doesn't. And I'm so glad you brought it up because I mean, actually, one year I actually did take myself away for a couple of days on my own because I was so desperate for that to have that isolation, basically. And I think when you're a bereaved parent, it's harder to admit that to people
Yeah.
because they think, oh, what? Why are you not eternally grateful? You've
Mm,
lost, you know what it's like to lose children, so why are you not
mm,
eternally grateful? But we're still mothers just like everybody else. And
yeah.
it still gets hard just like everybody else. And actually, sometimes I think it can be harder because like you said, it's a double-edged sword because then you
Mm,
feel these feelings, but then you feel extreme guilt for feeling these feelings because you know
yeah.
what it's like to lose a child. But at the same time,
Mm.
why can't we feel these feelings?
Yeah, and I think if we're going to be honest, we feel like that towards partners or family members. You get on my nerves. I don't want to be with you. You get on my nerves. Stop talking to me. Don't call me for 2 weeks. Like you might say that to your sister or your relative, or you might say that to your partner. But I think that I feel my strength and our strength as a family is we've always allowed people to be in their own being. So the example of him coming in and out of the room when I
Mm.
was giving birth is a typical example of that. Another typical example of that, when we go on holiday, he hates sunbathing. So in the daytime, in the afternoon, it's me and the kids by the pool, reading a book, sunbathing, to the point where I know, and I've been asked, did you come here on your own? And then they see me in the restaurant in the evening or in the morning for breakfast and like, oh no, she is with somebody because we're not joined by the hip. He
Yeah.
loves to explore. So when we go and explore or we go on trips, we go together. When we eat meal, we go together. But the whole sunbathing all afternoon, he doesn't want to do it. And to me, loving somebody is not, and I think that's what that grief has taught me as well. Leave people how they are and don't try to change them. Because initially, the friction word, even with my own children, the first Christmas, oh, Mum, what have you cooked for Christmas dinner? Have you cooked turkey or pork? And I wonder what presents I'm going to get. And I felt like telling them what to do one. Are you serious?
Mhm.
Are you asking me what you're going to eat for Christmas dinner when this is my first Christmas without this baby? All I was doing is burning to go to the cemetery. So as soon
Mhm.
as I fed everybody,
Mhm.
presents open, we all went to the cemetery, and that's when I calmed down.
Yeah.
But my sort of hypervigilance level, I felt like telling them all to go away and stop being so pathetic. But then I thought, no, children have way to deal with grief is they are showing us how to carry on with life. They go to
Mhm.
school, they have fun with their friends, they look forward to Christmas, they look forward to Easter. They are teaching me all of that. My partner is obviously different. Like I want to talk about it a lot. He would never come to Sam's group. He would never be on a podcast. He would,
Mhm.
but he's never once told me not to do my thing. So who would I be to say to him, oh, if you don't come to that Sam's meeting with me next week, that means you don't care about our daughter? No, he deals with it in a different way. He
Mhm.
saw me give birth. He saw me going through the termination. He saw me going through all these different operations. And he wasn't skipping along and having a smile on his face all the way through. So I think my advice to couples, because I know it's broken some relationship, I know some people have split over baby loss, is love your partner and allow them to be what they are. Like, there's no right or wrong in grieving. So
Mhm.
if he wants to never ever say her name again, that's how he deals with it. I'm gonna say her name. I'm gonna have photos in the house. And he does say her name, but I'm just saying, if you were with somebody that was like, it's happened, it's in the past, let's
Mhm.
move on. Moving on doesn't mean that they didn't love that child. Moving on doesn't mean that he doesn't have admiration for what I'm doing, like today, or speaking out, or the film, you know, we made. It's, I think the grief of man is another thing, definitely. I hope people can relate to is, he went to work on the morning I gave birth to our deceased baby because I think he felt claustrophobic in that room. That room was full, nothing was going on. I was in pure pain, and there was going to be no positive gain at the end of it. It's not going to be a baby crying.
Mhm.
It's not going to be. So for him, it was like he wanted to be with me, but also he needed to breathe and to come out of the situation and to get back in the situation. So yeah, don't be too hasty in judging your partner and in assuming that they don't care,
Yeah,
because
you're right.
caring for somebody can take many different ways.
Yeah, and
I'm a shower, I will feed you, I will buy you gift, I would hug you, I would call you, and I would text you, and I would check again that you're okay. But other people's are not like that. And
yeah.
sometimes it could be your own partner. Do you know what I mean? So I just,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I
yeah,
100% agree. And I'm so glad that you brought it up as well because it is something that I think people shy away from talking about, especially if it's impacted their relationship negatively as well, which at some point it probably will do everybody
yeah,
because
yeah,
we, like you said, we all grieve differently and we all grieve at different times as well. So you can't expect somebody else to feel what you feel. And I often think about the partners as well because I actually often sometimes again we're doing the hierarchy thing. Doesn't we shouldn't do that, but I can really see how difficult it is for them because they're not physically going through the physical act of it. So they don't have the physical side to it. But they're watching somebody they love, two people, three people, depending on how many babies there are, people that they love go through something so horrible, and especially with your case, like there's physical pain there and everything, um,
yeah,
and but you're so helpless. You can't
yeah,
actually do anything to help
yeah.
them to make things better. So what do you do? What do you do in that situation?
And
So you have to fill your cup to be able to pour into other people's cup.
yeah,
So that's
yeah,
something that I really I feel strongly about, and I think grief again is a good teacher for that as well to love yourself and to
yeah,
take care of yourself because if you don't you can't be expected to take care of anybody else
yeah,
and also what people often forget is that you're not just dealing with the grief, especially at the beginning anyway. You're not just dealing with the grief, you're dealing with the hormones and the trauma
and
as well. And that impacts us emotionally and how we respond to things and how we deal with things and how we process things. You've got and in that first period when you had the first three miscarriages, for example, you would have been highly hormonal through that
mm,
whole period. So you might not
yeah,
have been completely rational in your responses to things and acted in the way that your husband is used to you acting, for example.
hmm,
He would have had to have adjusted a lot in that time
yeah.
as well
Uh,
to be around
Yeah,
you.
and he never sort of said, "Oh, that's a bit over the top," and why are you saying this to me? So that's why now I have the 5 year reflection on it. Is he would take the kids to school, or he would be, "Oh, it's a sunny day, let's go in and get some ice cream," and it would never have been my idea, but he was doing things that the rest of the house was kind of functioning during those time where I felt it was more difficult for me to function. And he made the kids laugh, which I probably was not in a state to do. And he made me laugh, which I surprised myself doing. So it's like, yeah, you definitely stronger together. Obviously, if there's other issues in relationship, every story is different. But to me, the fact that we both lost a baby and I might have had to deal with that all by myself if we had separated, like some people do, I cannot even comprehend it. I just
Mm.
think how, we might have gone through it differently, but we both lost those children. And, you know, I think I was told that by the therapist, and he said it to me not long ago, actually. Nobody would ever feel the pain of a mother because there's only one mother. You
Mhm.
cannot, it was completely unrealistic for me to expect my kids to felt what I felt because they've never been pregnant, they've never carried a baby, they've never given birth to a baby, let alone the grief element. And they've lost a sister, not a daughter. So
Mhm.
this is different. My partner has never been pregnant, he's never carried a baby, he's never given birth to a baby. So it's kind of to reassure yourself as a bereft mother that by definition, on paper, no one can feel what you feel. It's physically impossible. Even if you have the closest of the relationship, even if, you have adult children or children that have got the maturity to understand, which I think mine did, no one would ever feel, and two bereft mother wouldn't feel the same. Because
Yeah.
like I said, I was friend with somebody that lost a baby a few months after me, but whether she was going through extreme pain or not, it was a bit one of those moments like, when somebody says to you and they something to you and they're drunk and you think, oh, they was just drunk. But I'm just a believer that actually that probably gave them the courage to say what
Mm.
they really thought. Um, she said, don't compare our stories because you've lost a baby, you chose your grief, I haven't. This is totally different.
Mm.
So this is why for me, doing things like today and being a podcast amongst bereft parents is where I've gone 360 degrees, where I do say
Mm.
I've lost babies. I do say I'm a bereft mother. I do say that I belong with that club that nobody wants to be a part of because I've lost a baby full stop. And if people disagree with that, that's fine, but that's what I believe.
Yeah, and I agree.
Um,
This
yeah,
is why you're here today, because you are unfortunately a part of the club. And I think that's very insensitive for anybody to say to anybody. However, I can also appreciate when somebody's going through grief themselves, they don't always consider the impact of their words on other
yeah.
people as well.
But I think unfortunately, even when the dust settled, and I apologized many times, which again was a bit in that situation with the consultant, I apologized for them to be
Mm,
upset. The friendship never rekindled. And
yeah.
we were friends for over 10 years. So, my partner, being very matter of fact, would say maybe it wasn't a true friendship in the first place.
Mm. Well,
Because that's what grief does
I
sometimes.
often think that. I think that's similar again with grief, especially when it comes to baby loss as well, because it's such a complicated grief. It's a unique grief. It's so hard to understand, and then even within it, it's still then hard to understand each other's, like you said. But for me personally, I've my friendship groups have changed a lot over the last few years,
Yeah.
put it that way. I see things very differently now than what I
Hmm.
used to before, and I feel like, and especially in the last couple of years, I feel like I've just woken up. And
Hmm.
I'm seeing things that weren't always I didn't always see, and actually I see since losing my son, I struggle with my faith, but I believe in the universe, and I believe that um the and I don't know why I'm saying this because at the time I hated it, but I do feel that the universe gives us what we need when we need it. And
Yeah. Or
I don't
everything happens for a reason is another thing that I hated people telling me when I
mm,
was in the midst of grief. But I strongly believe that because I would never have met you. I wouldn't be doing this
mm,
podcast. I wouldn't have had my rainbow daughter. I wouldn't be so passionate, not just about baby loss, but also Black women's losing babies.
mhm.
I wouldn't be the midwife that I am if I hadn't gone through that personally as well as professionally. Yeah, I just think, but I agree with you. It opens your eyes to a lot of people being, I don't know, I feel like a lot of people are empty shells. Like they on the outside, they look like a beautiful apple and it's shiny and it's red and the scenario of like they've got it all together, they've got the wealth and they've got the house and they've got the relationship and they've got the kids, and but I strongly believe that, like you said, we've all have had hard, we've all have had
Mhm.
things happen to us. So that is not, and that's why I'm stepping away. I'm not on social media myself personally, because I think it's a world, sometime even within grief, and I'm not judging anybody, but people are there doing podcast a week after losing a baby, or people are there doing podcast a week after having a baby and they're in gym exercising. Like this is some of it is not reality. Like this is not how it happens. You will bounce back, and there will be a time where you go back to the gym, and you can make a podcast and things like that. But that attention that people crave on social media, for me, we should use it as a positive platform to keep us together. So like this is why I'm doing this podcast. I'm not doing it because I want people to say, oh, look at me and look at my story. Oh, poor Maëla, look at what that I don't really care about that. I don't, because I could not tell my story. I know my story. I don't
Mhm.
need to say it.
Yeah.
But I want people out there to think, oh God, I'm going through a similar thing, or she said that, and I really like, because the film we made, making Black
Mhm.
women visible. Not posted it because I'm not on social media, but I put it in different mums group I was a part of. Like I'm part of a walking mums group, and a black lady that I've never met during any of the walks reached out to me, confided in me about experience just because she watched the film.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I was like, this is why I'm doing it. This
Hmm.
is exactly why I'm doing it. And we had a few conversation, and it's kind of died down. And I said, I'm always going to be a safe space if she wants to talk to me. But she said what she had to say, and that's it.
Mm.
But
And
like,
yeah,
yeah, that's why
you've
we're doing it.
impacted her now. You've
Yeah,
impacted her. While you were just talking, I was just thinking, that it sounds really horrible. You've gone through so much, but as a result of that, the world now has a champion in you.
yeah, and that's why I struggle with that request when maternal mental health was like, we think you need to be a lived experience champion, and I was like, but at the same time, sort of almost surprised, like a child that opened their first Christmas present, thinking, "What? My story's my story's worth listening." Like, what do
Hmm.
you mean? Like, what I'm saying is valid, and it's got some sense, and it's got some worth, and I was what 40 something, and it's the first time I've had that feeling of, oh yeah, no, actually, you could, yeah, you could be similar to other people, and you could, because I think when we've encountered racism, or certainly in my experience, you want to belong. I
Mm.
just want to be a mother. As much as I do, things with different group, and I'm a black mother, and I'm proud to be a black mother. The ultimate goal for me, and it could be different from many other people, but the ultimate goal for me is that there's a world where we don't say she's a black mother, but we
Hmm.
say she's a mother, or
Yeah.
she's a bereft mother. She's a midwife, not she's a black midwife. She's a midwife.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Empathy.
Like belonging,
Yeah.
belonging. And I think that's what you do beautifully with this podcast. Is like everybody can take, I think, something from the story of the different people coming on.
Yeah.
And the ultimate feeling for me, listening to some of the other podcasts that you did, is that I belong. I'm in the right place. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is, yeah.
Yeah.
Although my
You
story
are.
could be miles away from somebody else's, but yeah,
But
it,
you
it
are, and
is.
that's why you hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what I try to do. I try to cover as many different topics as I can, so at least you can resonate with at least one story, hopefully.
Yeah. And
Because
I don't know if you see it like that, but I think through my work, I've looked after IV drug users when I was in a particular ward, and I think wanting to be a bereavement midwife and having a particular interest in bereavement, like you have, having a baby taken away by social services at birth is a grief. So
hmm.
even in an ideal world for me, when we talk about bereft mothers, there are bereft mothers because again, people would say, but you choose that lifestyle. But if you look at the history of that lady, you wouldn't want to swap your life for a minute of their life when you go all the way back from childhood to now.
Hmm.
Did she choose to wake up in the morning and instead of having breakfast to inject heroin in her vein? Did she really choose that? because we know addiction is a disease anyway.
Hmm.
But who are we to say that, well, she's already lost 3 or 4 kids. Didn't she learn the first time? I've heard that even within midwifery, and I think, no, 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 no. Like, even with grief, I just hope of a world where people that have lost, and especially with Black women and social services, there is a massive taboo. And there are Black women out there that have lost baby through social services. And I don't know if that's how you see grief as well, but like, I think they also belong in that platform
Oh
because
yeah.
they, it's just,
This
yeah,
I so
yeah,
100% agree with you. This is so surreal. Like I feel like you're speaking for me because that's one of the things I do through Zion's Lighthouse. We're a grief consultancy company, and my mission is to educate and support people around grief and baby loss. We specialize in baby loss, but grief in general, because one of the things I do is I do a presentation on grief just to explain grief and the different types of grief. People don't realize how much different types of grief there is. You lose a job, lose a house. That you grieve that. You lose a friend. Your friend,
yeah,
you probably grieved losing your friend, even though it might be for the right reasons. You grieve that.
mm,
People who are terminally ill, we grieve them while they're still living.
yeah,
There's so many different types of grief. And like you said, things like being on drugs, for example, I look at that as it's an illness that they
yeah,
don't necessarily have control. They might have had control the first couple of times, but
mm,
these drugs are so addictive that once it gets a
yeah,
hold of you, you lose that control. And
yeah,
just because and I mean, in some situations, I'd like to think the only reason why social services are taking this baby is because it's in the best interest of that baby. That's not always the case, especially when it comes to Black
yeah,
people. But in theory, that's how it should be. However, it's never going to stop. It doesn't need to stop the mother from grieving, losing her
yeah.
child.
And I think as a midwife and a mother, where we go wrong is these women, yeah, if it is for the safety of the unborn, which often is the reason, because they cannot be in the mix of a chaotic lifestyle, um, they don't get seen by the midwife postnatally. Like, they suddenly either go back to their life, or some of them might go back to prison if that's where they are. They don't have postnatal care. So even when you read the things like the Embrace report in greater detail, when they talk about people that suffer from addiction, severe mental, like, we think that the number of women dying in the 12 months following birth is not even the real number, that it could be
Mm,
higher than that. Because, the lady that is hooked to IV drugs and die of overdose 3 months after giving birth to a baby, yeah, it could be an accidental overdose, but it could also be, do you know what? I can't take this pain no more.
hmm
I've had a baby, I've carried a baby for 9 months. They just took that baby away from me on day of delivery. So that could be a suicide. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you start looking at the numbers like that, which is why I think, yeah, there are many different grief, but like maternal grief doesn't always mean your baby is dead. Because
Yeah,
to me, if your baby is taken away from birth as a newborn, it's the same, although different, as having a stillbirth and carrying that baby for 9 months. And for no reason, that baby doesn't breathe from one day to another, and there is no heartbeat. It's so I think these women, it would be difficult to get someone like that on the podcast, but I think they belong here as well because
yeah,
they are bereft mothers. They are.
yeah. I mean,
And
that's
because they need,
one of my passions, which I'm trying to do at the moment. I'm working towards trying to get into prisons and support
yeah,
women in prison who've lost a baby because in all the research that I've done, there's nothing. There's
no,
nothing for them. There's no support whatsoever. I mean, it's hard enough for them to access maternity support whilst in prison anyway. But if then
mm,
something goes wrong, it's even worse, and they're more at risk as
yeah,
well
because
of
they're more
losing.
vulnerable. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, I agree, and I will. So anybody listening, if you want to come on the podcast, if you've got a story to tell, I'm more than welcome to have you. Because I don't judge anybody. This is a judgment-free zone. Everybody is welcome. This is a safe space. If you want to tell your story, I want to hear it because
yeah,
I think there's power in telling your story. There's power for yourself as an individual, but there's power for everybody else to hear it. Not just those other families that are bereaved as well. But those people that are working as professionals, that are supporting people, that may come into contact with people, or if you've got friends and family that you know have gone through things, or might not have yet, but it's likely, as we know, 1 in 4
Mm,
women experience baby loss. So there's likely you're going to come in contact with somebody at some point. It's to help
mm,
educate people on how to try their best to support people, because there's no, like you said, there's no right or wrong answer, and we don't know what to do, but
mm.
at least try. That's, I think that's
Yeah,
the key, isn't it? Trying
yeah.
people.
And I think but that's why things like this or the film are massively important because for me, it's almost, again, as a health professional, we don't need any more reports
Mm,
to tell us what happened to Black women. We don't need any more reports to say that we don't deal with baby loss appropriately and that health professionals are not trained adequately. And like we don't need any more of that. You just need to listen to the people that have been through it, which is why lived experience is so powerful. And this is what I said when we were at the broadcast of that film, when people said, well, what would be your thing that you would say to people watching this or listening to this is, and I said, remember saying, listening is not hearing.
mm,
When you listen to somebody, hear what they're telling you, and sometimes hear what they're not telling you, because
hmm
non-verbal cues in communication as important. Somebody's face, somebody's expression, somebody's silences is is hearing as well. So we need to, yeah, we need to do more podcasts. We need to talk. But the other side of it, which is always what I say, I don't relieve my trauma for fun. I don't relieve my trauma because I want to hurt myself and I want to make sure, you know, I'm reminded of what happened. I relieve my trauma and I do all these different things because I believe that Amora didn't die in vain.
hmm
And I believe that this is the way forward and part of the solution. But yes, don't let it be that you do what you're doing, Louisa, and I'm doing what I'm doing, and someone else is doing it for no reason.
Yeah.
It can't because part of the progress and what we're trying to do and people to feel less lonely is telling your story again and again and again. So I'm
Yeah.
only doing that because because I've got hope, and that's how I started this podcast. I'm doing it because I believe that there will be one person, half a person, whatever. There will be somebody that would listen to one of the things we've said today and be like, oh, or maybe sort of reflect on how they were with their daughter or their sister or
hmm
their cousin when they lost their baby, and maybe have this conversation years down the line and say,
hmm
I'm sorry, I feel your pain, and I maybe not reacted in the best way, but I didn't know any different at the time, and I'm sorry.
Yeah. And I think that's really important as well to touch on that, because even I've done that. I've reflected after losing Zion with friends that I've known who've had their own situations. And I mean, at the time, I mean, one of them in particular really stood out to me. And we were only young. And I felt like I was a really good friend to her. And I still think out of our group, I was probably one of the best friends there for her. But not knowing what I know now, I know how little that would have been for her at the time, if
Mm,
that makes sense. As for me,
mm,
I felt like I was doing a great thing, but now what I
mm,
know, I'm like, oh, and the fact that we did at the time when it was happening, I was there for her, and then it was just like we never spoke about it again,
mm,
for such a long time. And so, if anyone again is listening, please, I mean, you read the room, but please, if you're hearing this and you're thinking that actually maybe I should have done something, or
mm,
maybe I should give someone permission to say their baby's name and to let them know that actually I want to hear their name, I want to talk to them about it. I might not have done it then, but I'm willing now. It's
mm,
never too late. It's never too late to say that to somebody, I think, and to give people space. I've had people come on here that their son died 40 years ago and they still want to talk about it. So don't
mm.
presume that, oh, it's been 5 years, it's been 10. Oh, I don't want to bring that up for them. I don't want to make them upset, because you're
I
never going
know.
to do that for them. That's always there for them. It's never going away. You're not bringing
No, I
anything.
know. And that's what I think is when I read about people that are bereavement midwife, they all say you can't make the situation any better.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a fact. You cannot make that situation any better, no matter what you say, how kind you're going to be, how warm you're going to be. But you can certainly make it worse by adding to the grief things that you said in a certain way, look that you
Mm-hmm.
gave, or assumption that you made. That would add to the memory of that grief. So you can't make it better, but you can make it worse. And I
Yeah.
think that's what the message is to all our friends and family out there. You can't make it better for me. So I'm not asking you to fix it
Mm-hmm. Don't
because,
need fixing. I
unless,
just want to put that out
yeah,
there. We're not
yeah,
broken. We don't need
yeah,
fixing.
but unless you're a magician and you can bring that child back from heaven and
Mhm.
make it alive and all okay, you can't fix it. But yeah, you can sit because that's what I've said to some of my friends that I've lost babies since. I said, all I can do as a friend is sit with you when it's uncomfortable
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
listen to the uncomfortable. And
Mhm.
you can say things that maybe you wouldn't say to your partner, or you can say, I hate myself, or I hate him today because he did that, and I don't understand why. And it would always be safe to say, like you've said it before in a different way, but grief has got no sell by date.
Mm.
That you can still, we still want to talk about our babies 20 years down the line,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
So
They're still our
maybe ask
baby.
me if it is the right time. So you can always say, oh, you know, tell me about Amore or tell me about Zion, and you might say, oh, I've had a hard day. Well, like maybe not today, but I will.
Yeah.
But give somebody the opportunity to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Open that door. Let them know that that door's open. And if they choose to talk about it, then they can. But if they don't, they don't. But then they've got that choice. They know they've got that choice. And I think in
Mm,
a lot of cases, because it's not everybody's the same. Some people don't want to talk about their losses ever again.
mm,
But there's some people that are scared to or fear that it's not going to be welcomed. And once they know that actually it is welcomed, you might see a completely
mm.
different side to them.
Yeah. And other people that don't want to talk about it, there might be people just listening to your podcast and
Mm,
crying for a couple of hours and thinking, okay, so it's like
yeah.
when I go to the cemetery and see my daughter, there our baby with the cross is like baby P or baby M. Like some people would leave the hospital, not name that baby, not wanting to be involved in the funeral of that baby or cremation or whatever the belief, but they're still bereft mums and
Mhm.
dads. Like,
Yeah.
who are
And
we to
yeah,
say that? How could you not give your baby a name? Who are
yeah,
we to say that?
yeah, yeah. I know. I mean, because I think I put so much emphasis on Zion. Sometimes I think, oh
I know.
gosh, they're my miscarriages. What about them? I never
Mm,
named them or anything like that. But then I, have to then remind myself not to be hard on myself and to be kind to
yeah.
myself. But it's just so complicated. This is the thing. This is what is the thing about losing a baby is so complicated. There's so many layers to it. There's no right or wrong. Like I said, it's always just try and sit with people. Like I said, sit in the uncomfortable. Don't be scared of the
Mhm.
uncomfortable, and
Yeah.
and that will shine through. It really does, I think, for people when you know those ones that they're uncomfortable, but they still show up and they're there for you.
Yeah.
You sense it, you
Yeah.
feel it, you know.
Because I think it's a natural. I'm not criticizing people that are there and they want to fix things because I think it's a natural instinct. If you
Hmm.
see somebody tumbling over and hurting themselves, you're like, oh, are you okay? Do you want me to call an ambulance? But maybe that person is just frightened that she fell and she hurt themselves and they just want you to sit there and say, no, it's going to be fine. I've called an ambulance. So if you just, I've been in a situation like that where I've had to call an ambulance on somebody that had gone into a diabetic coma, and I knew she could hear me, but she couldn't obviously see me or anything like that. And I was like, "You're not on your own. I'm here with you. You're in the car park. We called your mom. We called an ambulance. So just stay with us." And I don't know if she remembered what I said to her, but I just think I can't fix it. I don't have the drugs to give to her for her to come out of that coma. So that's obviously the job of the ambulance, but I can sit with her and just say, okay, it's pretty shit, but okay, you're not alone, and we've called the people that you care that they're going to be here shortly, and the ambulance is going to come here and help you. And I
Yeah.
think sometimes friendship is the same thing. You don't have to
Hmm.
give somebody the medicine to feel less pain or you can just sit. It's fine. You're having a shit day. It's okay to cry, or you're having a happy day. Because I think that's another thing. I don't know about you, but you sometime at the beginning when you laugh for the first time or do something you really enjoy for the first time, you're like, ooh,
Mm,
oh,
yeah.
should I be laughing about that?
Yeah, yeah. Should I be
Mm,
doing this right now? Should I feel like this right now?
yeah,
And I mean,
yeah.
honest, that's if you're lucky enough to feel anything, because most people, especially if they've got the trauma and the PTSD, you're numb a lot of the
Mm,
time. So I think again, you bring up something so important that when we do feel something, embrace it and don't knock yourself or if it's good or bad, because sometimes a lot of the time you don't feel anything.
I
So
know.
actually allowing yourself to feel, whether it's the good or bad, and I
Mhm,
don't even like to say good or bad anymore. I've learned so
mhm,
much on this journey that I don't believe in good or bad emotions. They're just emotions,
mhm.
and
Yeah,
we feel them
they've all
at
got a
different
right
times.
to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I just think, it is, yeah, neither right or wrong to feel the way that you do because it's what needs to come out at the time. And yeah, like I said in my story, I didn't cry for many, many weeks. And I was actually sometime making myself cry on purpose. So I would just be like listening to Amazing Grace and have a little cry because I felt alive and I felt closer to my daughter, which sounds very sadistic because it's like, why would you listen to the funeral song? But I thought, no, because I felt so numb at times that I just wanted to feel pain, but not in a weird kind of way, but to feel alive.
Mm.
And
And to
and
help
sometimes being
release as
sad,
well.
yeah, yeah, and sometimes being sad is reminding you that you are alive and you have those emotions that are strong, but they are, like you said, valid. And I think again, maybe that's where we go wrong. And I think they changing it at school and they doing all these little, my daughter's school, they have all these little colors and you pick a color and say how you feel. So I feel blue today or I feel yellow. And obviously each color is attached to an emotion. But it's okay to feel red because you felt a bit angry
Mm.
because, it was a rush to come to school and mommy like asked you to hurry up and you didn't want to get dressed and but it's fine. It's fine. You're angry today, but maybe once you play with your friend in a little bit, you're going to be yellow, which is happy.
Yeah.
Um, so I think, yeah, that's the beauty of those podcasts as well, is everything is fine and it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And like I say, like you said before as well, it is for the secret listeners as well. It's just a
Yeah.
way of supporting people. I think I struggled at the beginning to talk to people and to reach out. I mean, I didn't even speak for ages. I was
Mm.
mute. But even then, when I did start to speak, there was a lot of masking going on. Um, so if I could have found something like this at the time, I would have literally lapped it up. So
Yeah.
I do hope that it is, and in fact, I don't hope. I know that it is a benefit to people out there. And there are people that I've never probably spoken to anybody about how they
Yeah.
feel, but they can sit and listen to this and feel some form of validation
Yeah.
without having to
And
speak.
I've had people kind of, yeah, like you said, coming to me when I returned to work as a midwife after losing them already, the domestic lady that was doing the cleaning. She came to me and she hugged me and she said, I lost a baby 40 years ago. I don't even know if it's a boy or girl. They just used to whisk them away. And and I've never not thought about him or her. And the fact that, you've said what you've been off, because I didn't lie to people. I didn't say, oh, and obviously I was over 20 weeks pregnant, so everybody knew I was pregnant. Um, she just hugged me and she said that. And I was like, wow. Like, I know we still got a long way to go, but it used to be horrific the way we used to deal with women
Mm.
and loss. It's like no option for, um, you know, funerals or anything like that. No option to hug your baby, no memories you can take, like a strand of hair or add the fingerprint or the foot. And that's why we've come such a long way because we do all of these, even if the women said no. So what we do is we put it on a USB card. And
Oh.
as part of like, I don't know, but in my trust it was like that. And as part of like the leaflet we give you about sand and the memory box and stuff like that, there's a leaflet with the memory card and we clearly tell you we don't just let you find it by surprise, but we said we've put a USB card in there. We've taken different pictures of your baby. There might be a strand of hair if the baby had hair, and it's entirely up to you. Like you could go home and chuck it in a bin straight away. You could not watch it do anything for 10 years. But we always say to women, give yourself time to make a decision. Don't make that decision hastily because we always have copy anyway. But like, just leave it
Yeah. I
and
think so. You
don't
go
think
through
about it.
trauma,
But
aren't
it's
you?
it's there, it's there. And so many women would have come back and said, I am so grateful for these
Hmm.
pictures. I'm so grateful because this is a sort of grief where you have no memories
Hmm.
apart from the scan and your partner come into this sort of scan and you had dinner afterwards and you laughed or like little things. And like you said, it's the hope that is being vanished because you hope that child's going to be healthy, is going to go to school, going to do well in life, be happy, and all of that is taken away. But materialistically, you have very little.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's just it's
Your
it's
trust sounds
it's
lovely.
yeah, it was. But I think it's not by the trust. It's like that charity I think is called For Louis. They are the
Oh,
parents of a little boy called Louis, and they do the memory boxes.
okay. Okay.
And I think it's in conjunction with SANS as well. To that research has showed people that women, and that's the thing with trauma, you haven't got the capacity to make informed decisions. So they
Yeah.
say to you, do you want to see your baby? Do you want to bath your baby?
Mm.
Do you want to christen your baby? Do you want to take a picture of your baby? Do you want me to dress your baby? Do you want to dress your baby? When you go through trauma, you don't either remember or you don't understand the question. You feel
Hmm.
one way 1 second, you feel the opposite the next. So
Yeah.
I think this is why health professionals have understood that then there are little things you can slip in there, which might be revisited later on down the line.
Hmm.
But if you don't do them now, once that baby's cremated or buried, you can't go back
Yeah.
and get a picture of their ear because sometimes we even take pictures of like body part, the ear or the
Mm.
eye, the eyebrow, the little thing because that woman might wonder 5 years, oh, was my baby hairy or not? I can't remember. Or
Mm.
what was the mouth like? So that's what we do. Yeah, that's
I
what
think
they
it's,
did.
yeah.
What they did.
I think that's
Yeah.
beautiful and it is so important because just from my own experience, I didn't think to do that. I wasn't prepared. I remember after he passed away, the hospital giving me a camera to take photos. But there was not anything beforehand, and no one said anything before. I just thank God for my sister that whilst we were FaceTiming my husband, she took photos. She pressed that button and took photos because otherwise I wouldn't
Yeah.
have any of him alive.
I
So
know.
yeah, and it is really important for me. It's so important to have my
It's
photo.
yeah.
I'm looking at
Yeah.
him right now. He's on my desk, like he's everywhere with me. I use that photo on my bouquet when I got married. Like yeah, it's so
And that's beautiful. Yeah.
yeah.
He is.
I
He is. He is with you, and he's probably you've said it before when I've seen you anyway, and I've said it myself, and other bereft mums have said the same. The energy and the soul and the courage they give you for a little person that lived for a
mm,
very short amount of time is huge.
hmm.
Like what they've achieved in their passing is greater than most of us would ever achieve in a
Yeah,
life on the earth, isn't it? Like
yeah.
that's
And
how
that
I
makes
see
me
it anyway.
smile. That makes me smile. That's part of my
Yeah,
healing. Everybody finds their
yeah,
own way to heal, but this is part of my
yeah,
healing. And I'm creating a legacy for my son, just
yeah,
like you're creating a legacy for your daughter. And I think it's beautiful. And then, and then the added bonus is that we can help people along the
yeah,
way. So
yeah.
yeah, I can't thank you enough for coming on here
Thank you.
today and being so open and honest with us and telling your story. And you have raised some really good, valid points. So I hope that anyone that's listening can really, it really hits home with them, and it helps validate them as
Yeah.
well because there's no such thing as black and white. It doesn't work like that. So be anyone that's listening, be kind to yourself.
Yes, and thank you for having me. And I'm sure Zion and Amore are sat on the tree somewhere looking down, thinking, "Oh, look how what our mummies did today!
Yeah.
Aren't you proud?"
Yeah, smiling, just giving us that little gentle
Yeah,
nudge that we need to keep going.
yes, yes. So
Oh,
thank you for what you do as well.
oh, no, thank you.